fellow Minecrafters, Gearsaw Studios here. Today I'm going to show 1.18 Experimental Snapshot 2, the second experimental snapshot for 1.18 containing the new generation. So, before I investigate this snapshot further, remember, please like and subscribe. It really helps me out. So, with that, let's investigate. So, here we are on the Minecraft subreddit because the stuff on the Mojang webpage is a little harder to read. So, here we are, and there's not going to be another snapshot for a couple of weeks unless there's a major problem, because most of the team is going on vacation now. The changes, you might want to skip by this part of the video since this is going to take a while to read through. Biome placement is now better, and now they're larger and less fragmented with less microbiomes. The cloud level has been raised from 128 to 192. The mountains biomes from 1.16 and below have been renamed back to extreme hills, and the same has been done to gravelly mountains. The beaches are now wider, and sometimes there's none of them. So now there's more varied shores and more turtles. Sheep now spawn in meadows, and also more rabbits spawn, while less donkeys spawn. Blue orchids no longer spawn in meadows because that's where Swamp's main deal was. And speaking of swamps now generate properly. So ice spikes in eroded badlands now generate again. Underground biomes interfere less with surface biomes, but they can still leak out cave entrances. So lush caves on the surface is now official. Increased height of some peaks to sometimes be 220 to 260, but this is rather rare. They've slightly increased the chance of finding large areas of flat terrain. Meadows now sometimes spawn lone trees, often with bee nests. Monsters, emeralds, and infested stone now generate in new mountains biomes, made ore veins slightly larger and more frequent. Structures now try to generate in the right biomes more often. Toned down the mega cave entrances a little because they were too common, and Diamond Zone is now a bit more difficult to get down to. Cheese caves have been made a little smaller on average, but they're still gigantic and less likely to intersect with the surface. Reduced the chance of sand and gravel being placed in such a way they immediately fall down on generation. So, if that happens, they're replaced with sandstone or stone in those cases. The falling blocks were messing up terrain as well as performance, so it still happens, but it's less often. So the final three changes are: made lush caves smaller and more uncommon. Zombie, skeleton, spider, and cave spider spawners now can keep spawning until light level 11, which means it's now harder to disable one. Spawners now have a custom spawn rules tag, which allows you to override the spawn rules of a spawned mob. In the tag, you can specify block light limit, which indicates the highest block light those spawners will spawn mobs at. This change is to enable map makers to use spawners in a more customizable manner. So there's actually 6 issues that are going to be like some sort of issue if you play on survival. Opening a world from experimental snapshot 1 causes an error, so you can't use old worlds. Low performance. Nether terrain is almost all lava oceans. The end pillars don't generate unless you respawn the dragon. Red sand is now very rare due to almost all the badlands being plateaus. And aquifers sometimes break coastlines in an ugly way, which was rather common. So, let's look at immediately. We can see that there's a very large beach, and there are some turtles on it. Personally, I think these beaches are a little too large, but this is a welcome change in my book. So, now turtles are going to be significantly easier to obtain because old beaches are about 5 to 7 blocks long. Along with that, this meadow right here will not ever generate with blue orchids. And sheep now generate very common here. So, that's a neat change. bees now generate on small trees and meadows, so just give me a moment to locate one. So, as the patch notes said, it is pretty rare, so it doesn't seem like this meadow has it. But there are more meadows around that I'm going to explore. And already an old mountain has appeared. I believe this is an old mountain, but let me check. Hold on. So this is the old mountains, the wooded mountains. So they still generate, and as you can see, there is some emerald ore. Overall, this looks much better than the original build. Oh, and a woodland mansion has generated. Just a quick side note, because those are extraordinarily rare, and probably rarer now. So the new cloud levels are in place now, which means they look much, much better. Because originally they used to intersect with all of the builds people would make, but now they no longer do that. Which means that you might be able to enable them and they'd still look good. Along with that, because the new sand and gravel generation, sometimes you'll find more stone just laying about, such as in this flower forest, which means you might find some random awkward stone patches, but this is probably going to be changed in a later update. Now I'm going to locate a swamp just to make sure they look correct. And let's see what the swamps look like now. Still a little fragmentation, however this looks pretty good. Looks normal again, like the pre 1.17, although this is a small swamp, it has some neat 1.17 generation. Although this looks very, very tall, and this looks just like a chunk error thing, these are still amazing structures. So I'm still excited for this update, despite it still needing quite a few changes to make it work. Here we are at some snow-capped peaks, and this seems to be some of the lower peaks. And there's a snowy tundra over there, which might actually just be snowy slopes. It's pretty rare to find tall mountains, so let me see how tall this is. This is only 151, which means the tall peaks are going to be hard to find, but there's a much taller peak over there. So let's investigate this one. I'm also going to try to look for emerald ore because it seemed like they don't generate up here, but that was supposed to be fixed. And another woodland mansion. I don't understand how common they are. 2 in 1 world is extremely rare. Maybe they increased the rarity by accident, but who knows. Now, looking in this small cave, it doesn't seem like there's any emeralds immediately. But let me use a slash fill. I'm going to look at this later, but this is still a very cool mountain. I have finally found a meadow tree. This tree has a bee nest, which means they probably will all generate with bee nests from time to time, which means this could be the new meta for bee farming. You can post the chances in the comments because I can't seem to figure out the chances with such rare trees. Along with that, a very tall peak has been found by me, and this peak I'm going to look for emeralds because emeralds generate more the higher up you are. Now, let's see how many emeralds actually generate. Oops, I accidentally made a command issue. Alright, so none that time. Sorry for the noise. You might want to lower the volume. And it doesn't seem like there's any emeralds right off the bat. It doesn't seem like emeralds generate at all, despite being fixed. Which means emerald mining is still going to be non-viable. Because it does not seem like they generate in these new mountains, only in old mountains, which are now called extreme hills. So if you need to find any, go to the extreme hills. For the final above ground change, ice spikes and eroded badlands now generate. So I've located this very small micro ice spikes, but it's good to know that they actually generate, which means you could probably find better looking ones. And for the other biome, /locate biome, eroded badlands, and let's see what this looks like. Takes a moment to load. So performance issues are to be expected. And eroded badlands seem to generate. Sorry for the cat meows. My cat wants to come into my room. Eroded badlands now generate, although they are having some strange generation, which should be resolved next update as an experimental snapshot. With the above ground thoroughly explored, it's time to look underground. The underground doesn't seem to have many changes, but I need to give myself night vision so I can see. Alright, now that I can see, it seems like there's smaller caves, but ever so slightly. Along with that, it seems like there's more ores generating, which is a good sign. Along with that, some diamonds have immediately been found. And this cave seems a lot more mountainous than usual, so you might want to expect some. Lush caves are smaller and less common, but that means they're just more valuable to find. Along with that, you might be able to find some axolotls in the lush caves. I'm going to check real quick by looking around here. And no axolotls immediately, but this is where you find axolotls now. If you want to find axolotls, just look around in the water in lush caves. Otherwise, nothing has really been done down here. It's mostly the surface that has been changed. Also, sorry for the kind of rushed video today, because I just merely forgot that there's supposed to be a snapshot, so please forgive the lateness of this video. With that note out of the way and everything already discovered, it's time to end today's video. If you enjoyed this video, remember, please like and subscribe. Also, sorry about the video before this being so long, I just lost track of time while building. I'll try to make shorter videos from now on, but with that, take care, explore the new ice spikes. Gearsaw out.